One kind of a drive that's become popular in the last 10 or 15 years is a solid state drive. So these are often called SSD or flash. So these are electronics rather than actual moving parts. Okay. They're much quicker. So the random access, well, first off, they're random access, which is nice. So we can go anywhere in the drive in roughly the same amount of time. And that is about 100 microseconds. So that's what, about 2 orders of magnitude quicker than the 10 milliseconds on a normal hard drive. We can also have increased transfer speeds. We could look, for instance, about 500 megabytes per second rather than the 100-odd megabytes that we were looking at in these other drives. But they're fairly complex. And some of that complexity used to be relegated to the device drivers. That's moved into the electronics. Some of the complexity is that, for instance, before you write a sector, you have to erase it. Okay, so that's some work. Other complexity is there's only a limited number of times you can erase it. I don't know what the number is. I think it's around 10,000, something like that. But what that means is you actually need some sort of what's called level wearing, so that you level out the wear on that solid state drive. So you don't have one particular area where we are getting close to that 10,000 and other areas where we've only ever written once. So there's a remapping of blocks that has to happen, and it has to decide, well, this one where we've written a lot of times, let's go ahead and move that over here. Unfortunately, that complexity was not always done perfectly well. So there was lots of the firmware on these SSD drives that didn't really quite work right, and that meant that SSDs weren't as reliable as regular hard drives were. Happy to say that's mostly fixed now. SS drives, certainly that you get from manufacturers as part of your laptop, like my MacBook Pro, work just perfectly. But this is one thing to consider and can greatly affect, again, the speed of using your media. So using an SSD as your boot drive and the drive that your applications are on and you're paging to can greatly increase the speed of your system. Because again, these 2 orders of magnitude can make quite a difference in use for paging.